done it, and it should. There we go. There's the little voice. Thank you, Sanjay. That hasn't happened for a while. I usually remember. Okay, so where was I? I was setting out the new minister's stated government priorities. So this is a quote from her uh, Twitter feed, which I've just put in the chat box. And they are supporting economic transformation, tackling unsustainable debt, unlocking climate finance, providing humanitarian assistance, enhancing conflict prevention capability, and empowering women and girls. So they all sound pretty good. Um, as always, it will take public pressure to show the government that there's support in the country for them to push forward robustly on those things and make it done properly and well. It must become more than just a list of hopes, obviously. Now, with very stretched public finances, we're seeing that in the news all the time. We don't realistically expect to see a whole lot of new money straight away for the things that we know need to be funded in the next year or so. So that's things like the vaccinations, which is going to be coming up soon, and the work of the Global Fund to fight HIV, TB, and malaria. However, not only must the new government make sure that these priorities actually turn into changes in the lives of real people around the world, they also have to rebuild trust with countries and partners around the world, following the disastrous cuts to our overseas aid over the last few years. I recently read a really excellent article in the New Internationalist by a chap called Nick Dearden, who some of you might have heard of. He's the director of an organization called Global Justice Now. And in his article, he sets out the challenge for the new government's foreign policy. And in case you're interested, yeah, I'll just put a link in that to that article in the chat box as well. Let's try and do this a bit quicker this time. There we go. It's not only obviously about something we talk about a lot, which is returning spending on overseas development assistance to 0.7% of our gross national income. Important though that is, it's also about how that money is spent and how we work in partnership with others to achieve genuine shared goals around sustainable development. So I hope that article is interesting to people if you want to go and have a look at that. Next, I wanted to mention that right now we're really concerned about the discovery of polio isolates in Gaza, and that's also in the news. So moving beyond British politics for a minute, as many of you know, polio is spread by the polio virus through poor sanitation, largely, and that's exactly what we've got in Gaza right now, with obviously much of their public health infrastructure destroyed and in ruins, and very poor access to food and clean water. Now, we know that the World Health Organization and others are extremely concerned about this and watching it and trying to do something about that. And luckily, there are no actual cases of the illness reported yet, but the risk is extremely high, given that the samples of virus have been found there. So again, I'm going to link to a recent article for you to have a look at that yourselves if you want to have a look. It's something obviously we'll be watching for and seeing if there's something that we can do any advocacy on. Lastly, for my remarks at this stage, I feel I can't not mention the riots and attacks on immigrants and Muslim communities around Britain over the last few days, and even today. While this isn't obviously directly a results advocacy issue, it's absolutely contrary to everything we believe in, obviously, not only about disrespecting the rights of people in the UK and everywhere to a peaceful and productive life, but also, taking part in influencing society in a positive, respectful way rather than through violence. I know that many of you are involved in peace movements and anti-far right activities and things of that sort, and I, really hope that you will feel able to speak out or take action safely in whatever way motivates you. The kind of intimidation we've seen by thugs around the country is not only despicable in itself, but it runs absolutely contrary to the kind of democratic engagement the result stands for. And it's also why it's super important for us to be careful about the kind of language we use when we describe the UK's support for immigrant communities, as we've mentioned in the past in our advocacy materials. again, I don't have more to say about that at the moment. So yeah, having got that off my chest, I'd like to move to the usual roundup of what you've been doing in your advocacy around the UK. I want to pay a huge tribute to all of you who have thoughtfully campaigned this year, with first your parliamentary candidates and then your MPs in the run up to and since the general election. We've covered it on this call before, but we've now got 335 new MPs. And so I know that that's been a big change for many of you, with political changes in parts of the country that none of us expected. So a big thank you to all of those of you who have let me know about your new MP and to help coordinate that with the intelligence that we're gathering through the results office. So far, I've checked in on 23 specific constituencies and would love to get confirmation of all the other places where we're either reaching new MPs or continuing to build on existing relationships. So please do email me or another results staff member that you know with anything that you do or that you learn. We really would love to hear about that. I'd like to give a particular shout out to the online group who in several meetings before the election and after supported each other to reach out to their candidates, also on their WhatsApp channel. And so they reached out to candidates and then the elected MPs in the constituencies that they cover and congratulated their MPs, new MPs, in sometimes very creative ways, and also gaining early meetings with some of them in some cases to start building relationships right from the outset. I'm not going to cover everybody, but particular shout outs to Florence in Chelmsford, Tony in South Cambridgeshire, and Jill in Sutton and Cheam for being particularly quick off the mark with your MPs, but there are others as well. And a big thank you to everyone around the network who's taken this month's action. And if you haven't yet done it or reached out to your MP, it's still okay to do that, even though we're now into recess. So thank you for all of that. And I just want to hold some space open for anyone who'd like to share what they've done this month, or how, if you've got anything to share about how the elections affected your opportunities for promoting international development in your constituency. So I know that in, for example, Stork Valley, throughout Dorset, Cheshire, Scotland, and all over London, there have been lots of big changes. So you just want to open the call to anyone who wants to talk about that for a few minutes.
Well, I wrote to my new MP congratulating him. He's 24 years old, and I got an automatic reply saying he was setting up his office. So I did do the 2 points you said. I also write to my ex-MP just thanking her for what she's done for us, including the calls I've been in touch with her.
Thank you, Richard. That's great. Yeah, thanking an outgoing MP, that's really nice as well. Would anyone else like to share?
Yeah, I wrote to mine and I haven't received an acknowledgement. But I'm not going to write again because I think he's probably setting up his office and all the rest of it. I just hope it's got to him.
I'm sure it will do. Yeah, I mean, I think we're hearing a lot of that, and I think we heard from Vinny and others recently on these calls about the realism we've got to have about contacting them while they're trying to get their head around all of their new responsibilities. Anyone else? Did I see anyone else wave a hand?
I'd like to ask Richard, what's your constituency, Richard?
Chipping Barnet.
Okay, because in Bishop Stortford, which is next door to me, we also have a 24-year-old, and he's going to be setting up his surgery in the High Street, which is quite interesting.
I think the youngest one is 22 years old.
Ah.
So I'm feeling very, very old.
Someone with lots to learn. That's great. Thank you. Karishma and Kush, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we had quite a big boundary change where we live, but we managed to still have the same MP, Tulip Sadiq, who's Labour. So we have written to her, but we had kind of a lot of radio silence during the last Parliament up until the election campaign period, where all of a sudden I got a flurry of reply to all of my emails from the year and a half beforehand. to show me how engaged she had been as an MP. So hopefully this time around I'll get a reply before 4.5 years' time.
Thanks, Kush. Yeah, good luck with that. Hopefully she'll have some reason now with a different government perhaps to change her level of responsiveness perhaps. I see another hand up from Paul.
Yes, it's me, it's Helen.
Hi, Helen.
Hello, Naveed. I wrote to our new MP, who is Labour. We've had a Conservative one forever. We've now got a Labour one.
Yeah.
And we had a very quick, very thorough reply saying he believed in everything we were doing and it was wonderful. He was saying all the right things. So I'm very hopeful with him. I can't remember his name now.
That's great news. Thank you. And yes, that sounds like a good start for all of the things that we need to be, will need to be telling them about, that ordinary MPs won't necessarily know just because they've got the right, a good attitude towards international development. They'll still need to be informed about some of the things we talk about. So that sounds really great. And Sanjay.
Yeah, Dad and I were just saying the same thing as Helen and the pool team as well. We've gone Labour for the first time in like 100 years or something crazy. So yeah, so we're like everyone else. Dad's been in touch and gotten out of office. So we're just waiting to hear. But it's made me chuckle. My niece didn't even bother looking at the results for Macclesfield because she knew it's a Conservative safe seat. And when I told her, she was like just completely shocked. So yeah, Dad's really keen to get in and build good relationships.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Anyone else got anything to share? And not necessarily just about what you did, but anything? Yeah, well, what your new MP is like, or what you did to engage them. I saw another hand up and then it went down.
I think it might be me. Yes, we've also changed MP and also written a letter and had an out of office reply. But we did notice we got to listen to his maiden speech, and he appeared to be wearing an SDG badge, which would indicate that perhaps he's on the right ideas.
That's a good sign. You could ask him, perhaps.
We have.
Well, look, thank you again for all of that. I think it is absolutely going to pay dividends. As we start to involve new MPs in the issues we're advocating for in the coming months and years. So that's a really great start. Thank you all very much indeed. Lastly, for this section, I want to thank Sanjay and Jay for sending over their archive of grassroots advocacy in Macclesfield over the years, which arrived the other week. I've not been in the office for a while, but the parcels arrived, and I'm really looking forward to reading about your history of campaigning success over the years with your perhaps more hard to reach MPs and all the hard work you did. So thank you so much for that. Right, I think what we need to do now, I don't know if all of our candidates are online, but it is time for us to elect our new grassroots trustee to our board of trustees. Now, as I said, this happens every 2 years, and at any given time, we have 1 or 2 grassroots representatives on our board at any one time. The idea is that they alternate, so 1 year we'll have 1 and 1 year we'll have 2. So we've got Kush on the call, who's our current grassroots trustee, and we'll be joined by the person that you all elect this evening. We've had 4 nominations before the deadline, which is the most we've ever had, I think, or certainly in my time. And we shared their applications with you by email last week. Now, don't worry if you didn't have time to read that, because we're going to put a link to the candidates' information in the chat box now. And again, if you can't read that and take part in this call at the same time, that's also okay, because each of them is going to be given no more than 2 minutes to basically set out their case, so to read out or summarize what they wrote or say some different information. That's up to them. And then when we've done that, we're gonna, so the technology is not high tech, it's not too difficult, I hope. We're gonna send a link to a Google form, and you should all be able to open that up in the chat, and then that will enable you to vote once. So just for your preferred candidate. All members of the network who've joined the call this evening are entitled to vote for one candidate. Any staff on the call, I'm afraid you're not entitled to vote. We are going to also, we're aware that not everyone has the same technology, or the way you access the call, that might not work for you. So I'm also what you can do instead during the couple of minutes I'll keep it open, is to text me your vote, or if you can put a direct message to me in the chat. Don't message everybody, because it's supposed to be a secret ballot, but if you can select me from the drop down and message me there, or as I say, text, and my number is 07906 662 571. So that's 07906 662 571. I've just put that in the chat as well. So if we could, I'm going to ask the candidates each to do their sort of 2 minutes piece. Just open up your microphone and just say what you would like to say. And I think I'm going to do it. I think the order was the order which the applications came in. I don't know if that's appropriate, but that's the order I've got written down in front of me, so I'm going to stick with it. So I'm going to invite Richard, actually, first of all, Richard Rushworth. Let me read out the 4 candidates first of all. So we have Richard Rushworth, Balan Ledada, Karen Downard, and Abbas Radadir, who have come forward and have nominated themselves. So Richard, I'm going to ask you to say your piece first. So over to you.
I'm going to speak quite quickly. Got 2 minutes. It's not fair if I overrun. I would like to apply to be a grassroots trustee because I've been a grassroots member for about 25 years. Can you hear me all right? I'm
Yes.
so impressed with the work Results does overall, and particularly for grassroots members, giving us such knowledge and training to help us make a fairer world. Monthly calls, actions, briefing notes, visit to parliaments. I also went to the US International Conference. So much help given to me, I want now to repay by giving more time to Results, taking responsibility for operational best practice, managing risks and sound financial governance. Trustees can be personally liable if things go wrong. I've read the Results strategic plan to 2030 and Charity Commission trustee guidelines. What do I think I can contribute as a trustee? Bringing a grassroots perspective, including looking for more ways we can help Results. I've been involved with charities for many years. Overseas, Papua New Guinea. I was with voluntary service overseas for 18 months. I've volunteered in Belize and Cambodia with local charities, all countries we advocate for, also helping in Greece at refugee camps. In UK, homeless charities, helping refugees and asylum seekers, medical services for migrants. I've been a volunteer with the British Red Cross for 11 years. I'm a trustee of 2 smaller charities. One, we run a farm for disabled people and send school fees to Zimbabwe. The other one, we raise funds for a project in Papua New Guinea. I've received training from the National Council of Voluntary Organisations on being a trustee, and I feel I contribute with all this to being a trustee. Also mentioned in the job description were subcommittees: finance, I'm actually a qualified accountant; HR, I run a recruitment company, so I have some knowledge; anti-oppression, I've done some research on this but need to look more into it. Also ad hoc groups, grassroots, yeah, we need more members. Naveed gives us such wonderful material, it's a pity we haven't got more people. Governance, I've training this, so I could contribute all of these. I also would like to help with fundraising. I've experience of this, including I did raise some funds for Results a number of years ago. I'd like to discuss with trustees about maybe doing domestic matters, which they do in the US. I'd like to expand on all these, but no time. Finally, if elected, I would ask Naveed to send my email to all grassroots members, and they can contact me with any ideas and suggestions, and I will take them to the trustee meetings and give feedback. I would also like to give a summary of trustee meetings. At these monthly meetings, we have a quarterly meeting, and I'd like to give feedback at the meeting what happened, to make a link between the trustees and us grassroots members, which I think would help us in what we do. And my grateful thanks to Naveed for everything he does, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Richard. That is, sorry to make you speak so fast. but we needed to get through it. That's very comprehensive. Thank you. I'm now going to invite Bolanle to say her piece. Go ahead, Bolanle. Feel free to open your mic and.
Thank you, Navid. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Bolanle Dada, and I'm honored to be here today as a candidate for the grassroots trustee position. As a registered dietitian from Nigeria with extensive experience in program management, advocacy, and policy development, I've dedicated my career to addressing issues around food insecurity, malnutrition, and poverty in Africa. And I'm currently at the tail end of my master's degree in food security at the University of Edinburgh. Today, I want to share with you briefly on why I believe that I'm a unique candidate and how I will bring valuable perspective to the Results UK board by highlighting a few of my experiences. Well, growing up in Nigeria, I witnessed firsthand the devastating impact of poverty and food insecurity. From my experience in the clinical space, as well as working with local communities, I see that many communities lack access to basic health care, nutrition, and education, leading to diet-related illnesses, malnutrition, and a cycle of poverty that is hard to break. And in my role with the Lagos Food Bank Initiative, I led a team responsible for monitoring and promoting food security and nutrition policies. Additionally, I founded a community outreach where I led volunteers to advocate for child nutrition and exclusive breastfeeding. This involved engaging with community leaders, organizing workshops, and collaborating with UNICEF to ensure the supply of ready-to-use therapeutic foods to these communities. Our efforts significantly increased awareness and knowledge about proper nutrition, resulting in better outcomes for many families. I'm also currently serving as the Global Youth Ambassador for the award, where we have different projects on education and climate in Africa. And I work as a young change maker in this area, and this involves creativity, organization, and planning skills. So why am I a good fit? If given the opportunity to become a grassroots trustee, I will represent Results UK Grassroots Advocates Network to bring about innovative ways to promote our advocacy and increase our reach. By leveraging my insights from working in Nigeria, I can provide a unique perspective on the existing challenges and even imagine challenges that are faced by low and middle income countries. I bring a wealth of experience in advocacy, policy management and development, and community engagement. My ability to connect with diverse stakeholders and my dedication to improving lives through practical and sustainable solutions make me a strong candidate for this role. And I'm passionate about ensuring that our strategies are inclusive and effective in reaching those who need it most. I want to ask for your support to join the Results UK board as a grassroots trustee. With your support, we can continue to advance our mission, leverage our collective experiences and insights to make a meaningful difference. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Bolanle. Let's move straight on to Karen, who's next on my list. Karen, over to you.
Good evening. I've applied to be a grassroots trustee because I want to become more involved in results. I've been a member of a group since 2017 and enjoyed going to summer conferences. It was a summer conference that actually got me involved in the first place. Ricky and I have also been group leaders, initially in Macclesfield and now in Edinburgh, and have worked to keep the groups active despite a somewhat discouraging political environment lately. I think that we really do need as many MPs as possible to hear from local results advocates, and I'd love there to be many more groups to reach more MPs. Personally, my engagement with results has come from an almost lifelong concern about poverty in the global south, which has got me involved in fundraising, in campaigning, and a lot in fair trade. I took part in both the Jubilee 2000 and the Make Poverty History campaigns, and have written many letters feeling that I have to speak out regardless of the likelihood of a favourable outcome. It's just the right thing to do. I've also volunteered with Tier Fund and Tradecraft and helped run a fair trade shop. As well as what I've learned from results, I've done an Open University course in international development and travelled with Fair Trade and Tier Fund to Peru, Ghana and Mozambique, which has certainly widened my understanding and increased my motivation to act. If elected, I look forward to learning more about Results' policy and parliamentary work and putting what knowledge and experience I have to good use by promoting the grassroots sides of Results on the board, so that all three parts of Results are really important. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Karen. So I'm going to move on to our final candidate and invite Abbas to say his piece. So Abbas, over to you. Are you with us?
Yes, yes. Hi, good evening to all. I am happy to be here, and I am happy to be candidate to become like grassroots results. And in addition, what I mentioned in my letter, which you can show in this with the David email last day, I would like to say that originally I came from the heart of the Middle East, from Jordan. So while I visited all the countries located around Jordan, like Iraq, like Syria, like Israel, like Saudi Arabia. So when I finished my first degree from Baghdad University, I started working with the Development and Employment Fund in Jordan. So for 12 years. So my rules, it was helping the people who are suffering from the poverty, to let them to have a new life in their community. So I know what the poverty means. I know when we meet other peoples who are suffering from the health, from education, poor health, poor education. I know what they want. So at the moment, as David mentioned, we have many international issues running around the world, in the Middle East, in Africa, in Asia, and maybe in Europe as well. So everywhere we have this problem. So in the meantime, if you elected me, I will try with result board to solve this, to try to solve this problem internationality. So for that, I will choose the board members to open their eyes, to make new links with the international organization who dealing with these issues around. And in the meantime, I know the rules for the international student who came to the United Kingdom. So it's very nice to hear the story from the people who came from the country who's suffering from any kind of a problem. So I am happy to, if you elected me, I will be happy to share my opinion, to share my ideas with the result board on behalf of you, and I hope in the future the result UK will have more voices internationally and here in the UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Abbas, and thank you to all four of you. I hope everyone will agree we've got four absolutely excellent candidates here. I will just repeat the sort of voting instructions, because I think I saw at least one person join, possibly after I'd spoken. So I'm just going to go through that again. So I hope you all heard something from all of the candidates. There is a link in the chat to their written piece, which covers some of the same ground, so you can have a look at that. And we're just going to take about 3 minutes, I think, to give everybody a chance to vote. So it's been set up to give you one vote if you go onto that link from the sort of the IP address, I think, or from the link that you're on. And yes, Akil, thank you for your question. It's a first past the post system, so you choose one candidate. You vote for one person only. Now, it's one person, one vote, and I know there are some of you with more than one person on the computer. So hence we have, we need to use this. This is going to be a trust-based system, obviously. If you can only get one vote and there's 2 or 3 of you in the room, the others of you can either message me, direct message, choose my name from the drop-down list and put the name of your preferred candidate, the first name. You don't need to say who you are, obviously it's a secret ballot, just the name of your preferred candidate. And then what we'll do, whilst the rest of the call's proceeding, behind the scenes, we will add up the votes that have come in through the direct messaging, the votes that have come in on the Google form, and anything that has come to me through text. And again, you can see my number on the chat, 07906 662 571. Again, just text in the name of your favoured candidate. I can see I've got some new messages coming in. Yeah, so we've got the forms, and yeah, thank you for resending the link there. Does anyone, before we open that, does anyone have any questions, or you're not sure how to vote, or any questions at all about the process? Thank you, Jess, for the reminder of the different forms of ways in which you can vote. So, as I said, one person, one vote. We've done our best to hopefully arrange that. And there was something I was going to say, and I've missed it. Oh, yes, and the candidates themselves can, of course, also vote. Same rules for them as for everybody else. So I'm going to open it up now for 2 minutes, if we just go quiet for a bit, and please vote through whatever method you choose. Over to you. Okay, is there anyone who hasn't been able to vote yet, or has had any problems, or would need a little bit more time? Just open your mic and shout, or raise a hand or something if you feel you need a little bit more time.
Sorry, I need a second more. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm not using Google. They keep wanting me to sign into Gmail, so I will text you.
No problem. Go ahead, Kathy. That's fine. Okay, sorry to those of you who have problems with the form. Should be open to all, but Google's a mystery to me sometimes. All right, so we are going to count up the votes behind the scenes. Jess is behind the scenes with the Google form, and we will sort of tally up the numbers and hopefully be able to announce the result at the end of this call. If not, for any reason, very shortly afterwards, I hope. So thank you for your democratic participation, all of you. And I think we need to now go over to, we've got very few minutes left. So we're going to hand over to Vinny Wooding, who many of you have already met more than once, our Senior Parliamentary Advocacy Officer on TB, who's been helping us through not only our TB advocacy in recent months, but also guiding us through the pre-election and post-election processes. Vinny, are you with us?
I am, yes.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us once again.
No, it's okay. It's my pleasure.
So we're going to cut to the chase. Obviously, we've got a lot of things to do on this call. So rather than the usual opener questions, we've asked Vinny to do a brief presentation, and then in the final few minutes, we can have a few Q&As about this month's action. So Vinny, over to you.
Yeah, that's fine, Vid. So I'm just thinking, time-wise, do I need to give it 5 minutes before the end so that the result of the vote can be announced?
If you can, we may, I have a feeling, need to run over 5 minutes if that's not a problem for people, but if you could do your best, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Not a problem. Not a problem. So hi everyone. Lovely to see you all again. I mean, obviously I can see you. You can't see me. Unfortunately, I've got some Wi-Fi issues at the flat at the moment, which means I'm having to do all my calls on my phone. It's very inconvenient, as you can imagine. But here we are. I didn't want to pass up an opportunity to come and speak to you, especially because David has been reporting back on all the work you've been doing on our TB actions, both this month and throughout the year, for which Sahira and I are eternally grateful. So I wanted to come and talk today sort of primarily about the antimicrobial high-level meeting, which is coming up, but also a bit to expand a bit on what Naveed said earlier about this new political landscape that we're operating in, and how things have changed basically from what they were under the previous governments. So I'll start with the high level meeting. So, you know, as many of you know, because many of you have done work with me personally on this in the past year or so, we have another high level meeting at the United Nations coming up in September. This time it's on antimicrobial resistance. You may remember that there was one last year on TB, which we did a lot of work towards, which was quite a painful process, but a very informative and interesting process, I think certainly from our side of things while we were engaged with it. But we have another high-level meeting coming up this year. Only the one versus the three that we had last year, which I think is maybe why I'm quite pleased to report that my understanding of the negotiations and the things that are all around it is that it's all going very well, which may stand in stark contrast to, again, what happened last year when there were lots of diplomatic spats and people breaking UN protocols, etc., etc. It appears we've had absolutely none of that this time, which I think is great to hear. We're about to enter a period called the silence procedure, where in the lead up to basically agree on what they're going to say post the meeting and what's contained in what's called the political declaration document afterwards. That is very close to being finalised, and then it enters this silence procedure in advance of the high level meeting, which is of course at the end of September. So things are going well, and as I say, I think especially so given how they went last year with the TB high level meeting, it really does feel like it's been a kind of completely different approach. People are a lot more receptive, a lot more supportive, and so I really think we might see some very positive action on the high level meeting. And then this, of course, relates to sorry, I was just seeing Jill's thing pop up there. This, of course, relates to the monthly action, because obviously the timing of the high level meeting coincides with the annual United Nations General Assembly week. It's actually longer than a week, but the main week, and it's not uncommon at all for heads of state, world leaders to go to New York for that week and have their bilateral meetings and whatnot. And I think given the kind of context of British politics at the moment, obviously we've just had an election. Keir Starmer has done a couple of things on the international stage, but is going to be looking to do more of them going forward. Well, the United Nations General Assembly provides a really good kind of locus opportunity for Keir Starmer to meet lots of different leaders and heads of state. And so we think that he is probably going to avail of this. So we're pretty confident to think that the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary will be going to the United Nations General Assembly. So we know they're going to be in New York that week. And between us on this call, I had a very positive conversation with an FCDO official the other day who said it looked quite likely that the Foreign Secretary is going to attend the high-level meeting, which would obviously be fantastic. But given the importance of the AMR and AMR, just the wider AMR landscape at the moment, given the importance of it to international development and to the work that we do, we really think that the new Development Secretary, Annalise Dodds, should also be attending that meeting, because we sort of face the risk of it becoming very, not diplomatic, obviously, I mean diplomatic, but very sort of like science heavy, very research and economics driven, when actually we should be addressing the AMR, the increased prevalence of AMR, because it's a morally right thing to do, and it's just one step on the road to us eliminating global poverty. And so we want the new government to really put its money where its mouth is and show, by virtue of the International Development Secretary going to the high-level meeting, that the UK is really serious about this issue and wants to, shake off the dust of the last kind of, I mean, you could go as far, well, let's say since 2016, so to shake off the dust of successive governments since 2016 who kind of maybe tarnished the UK's reputation, certainly within the development space, but also likely within the foreign affairs and diplomatic space as well. And really use this UNGA and the high-level meeting coming up as a refresh moment and an opportunity for the government to really show how it's going to lead from the front on international development and how it's going to utilise the best resources that the UK has to help eliminate poverty around the world, as I say, in ways such as the AMR agenda and the global health agenda, which I work in particular results. So we really do see this as quite a good opportunity, and I think just having some fresh faces on the scene, having some fresh ministers on the scene, having a fresh pair of eyes, reading civil service briefings, it really does sort of like change outlooks and change attitudes. And I think we've already seen in the last couple of weeks that the government has done some, what I would consider to be very grown up things. And I've heard the expression used more than once, the grown ups are back in the room. I mean, I'm still waiting to be seen. I'm not sure if any politician can be described as a grown up. But there's still there's still a lot. I think there's still a lot for us as a sector that we need to hear from the government. We feel like we haven't heard that much from them. I appreciate that it has been overshadowed potentially by domestic issues, and obviously to the things that Naveed highlighted earlier. But sooner or later, the government is going to have to come out and make a stand and make a statement and talk about their values and talk about how they want to enact those values on the world stage. And we're really hopeful and of the belief that potentially Annalise Dodds can do that. And if I could just, I guess, maybe finish on a little note about Annalise Dodds and maybe some of the things that we've seen from the UK government since they've been set up. So one of the opportunities that we think is quite interesting is, so as Naveed said earlier, Annalise Dodds is a Oxford MP. And by virtue of being an Oxford MP, she takes in some of the Oxford University constituency, which is undoubtedly one of the strongest and most influential UK soft power organisms at our disposal. It also is a world leader in research and development, the kind of research and development that we need to see in the TB space, that we need to see in the other disease eradication spaces. So we think there's, again, a real exciting opportunity that the Minister for Development is is now representing a constituency that has such a strong R&D element to it, and we think that can only be a benefit to the work that we do. Increasing the amount of well, as I say, well, actually, she does this. So not only does she have a responsibility as Minister for Development, but as you all know, she now has a responsibility as a constituency MP to respond to her constituents' interests. So we're looking for ways that we can mobilise some people at Oxford University and who we know in the research and researchers and such to try and get to speak to Annalise. I can't actually believe that I have managed to come up 1 minute short from when I said I would finish speaking, which, if for those of you who've met me before will know, is a record achievement for me, almost worthy of a gold medal in the Olympics. But if anyone does have any questions, yeah, fire them my way, let me know.
Amazing. Thank you, Vinny. I think that's a really comprehensive, quick description of why this thing matters, why antimicrobial resistance and TB are linked together, why it is such an important issue and will be an increasingly important issue for global poverty. I put a link in the chat to our action materials, which are a little bit, you can, if that was a bit quick for you, you can recap it there. And there are, as always, links through to articles and things that go into a little bit more depth of explanation. Really sorry that we've had to cut short this part of the call, which is always so interesting. But I do want to take 1 or 2 questions, because it'd be such a shame not to leave people hanging if there are some important questions that we can answer whilst Vinny is with us. And also I see that Sahira, TB Senior Policy Advisor, is also on the call. So between the two of them, I think they could answer any of our questions in say the next 5 minutes or so. So just open up your microphones or paste a question into the chat, whichever you prefer. Pete.
Yeah, a silly question, I suppose, but is it too early to contact my MP about this?
I think that's one for you, Vinny.
Absolutely not. No. I mean, I think as was clear when a couple of the grassroots members were given their updates before, I think you're going to get, over the next couple of weeks, you're going to get a lot of those automatic replies, those ping back saying, "No, I'm in the process of setting up my office. I'll get back to you as soon as possible." Now, I don't know whether, who am I to say that isn't a reason for doing it? And don't get me wrong, whilst they aren't able to reply at the moment, if I had to hazard a wager, I would say that these MPs are going to be the more likely MPs over the next couple of weeks, months and years to reply, because they're new, they're fresh-faced, they want to look good to their constituents. So I think even if you did send them an email now and you got a bounce back, I still think you will get a response at a later date, because obviously, as I say, they want to be seen to be eager and keen, engaging with their constituents. The best way to do that is to get back to them.
Thank you, Vinny. Abbas.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Vinny, just I have a question. When we talk about the United Kingdom government, yeah, today in Wales, we have a new First Minister for Wales. In the meantime, we have the First Minister in Scotland and in the north of Ireland. Do you think, as a volunteer with the result, we should open link with these ministers as well? So I don't know, when we talk about in the UK ministers or in the UK government, already we have in Wales, we have in Scotland government as well. So I don't have the whole idea how we can deal with our government here. Thank you, because I am calling you from Wales. Thanks.
Great question, Abbas. Vinny, can you?
Yeah.
Very briefly,
So,
we haven't really got time to do justice to that one, but do the best you can.
I guess in 100 words and fewer. Obviously, a lot of these decisions are set at the national level. even I know Scotland has that relatively innovative partnership with Malawi, which they've had for a very long time. I don't profess to know the ins and outs of it, but I do know that there are, as evidenced by that scheme, opportunities for the devolved nations to do some of their own development work. I'd be curious to look at that actually, because I think that would be a really interesting avenue. And you know, if we're big about localization in politics and more local decision making and power, then I think that is something that you know, we need to do. So leave that one with me, Abbas, and I'll ask around.
Thank you, Vinny. And it just occurs to me that this could be a bit of a curveball, but you know, health, antimicrobial resistance are across global and local, aren't they? They affect everybody on the planet. Also, with antimicrobial resistance, it cuts across to other areas that are within the domestic sphere, such as, you know, animal health. So there may be ways in. So yeah, thank you, Vinny, for offering to sort of do a little bit of research into that. That would be a whole call in itself, wouldn't it, that topic? But we have to leave it there, I think. Thank you. I see, Karishma and Kush, you've put in a link to a video which people can look at on antibiotic use in animal farming, which is available on YouTube. And thank you, Jill, for sharing that you're going to copy your MP into anything that you write. I presume you write, by which you mean anything you write to the minister. I should also say, just for the record, that I have written my letter to my MP, Annalise Dodds. So obviously Results CAO Kitty will be writing on behalf of all of Results, welcoming the minister formally, but I've done my my letter, my own personal letter to my MP as well. Haven't had a response back. So look, thank you for those questions. Sorry this section has been briefer than really the topic deserves, but it's the best we can do to fit in that really important democratic element. Oh, thank you, Jill, for that extra piece of information as well. I won't have time to read that out, but I'll leave people to read that. So hopefully Vinny's given you a flavour of why this action matters now. We've got till, I think, mid-September when the Vinny, can you remember the dates of the AMR, or Sahira, the dates of the AMR high-level meeting?
Is it the 24th or the 26th of September?
Yeah,
Okay.
the 26th of September is the actual meeting, but the declaration is usually kind of agreed before that, and then they'll just get kind of signed off at the actual HLM.
So that suggests that sooner rather than later is probably good, if that's possible for people. So thank you all for that. As I say, I pasted the link to the materials. They're on your email. And thank you for all of your advocacy efforts on some of the world's biggest, though not necessarily most well-known development issues of AMR and TB. And I know that we can help bring those topics up the government agenda as it seeks to rebuild its reputation as a development actor on the world stage. So last but not least, before we go, we can announce the results of the grassroots trustee election, and we have a runaway winner. So a big thank you again to all of our candidates. I'm going to read the results in reverse order. So we have Abbas with 2 votes, Balanle with 3 votes, Karen with 5 votes, and Richard with 11 votes. So many congratulations to you, Richard, for being elected. Many thanks and congratulations to our unsuccessful candidates for putting your names forward very bravely. And really, I was blown away by all of the things that all of you said. And thank you so much for putting yourselves out there. So Richard, I'm sure that one of the co-chairs or someone from the board will be reaching out to you about inductions and about your first meeting. I would also actively encourage any of you, whether or not you were a candidate this evening, to apply for other trustee roles. So we have spaces on our board. Now, off the top of my head, I can't say how many. I should probably know. We have had some trustees moving on, and we will be looking for non-grassroots trustees, but that could be grassroots people as well. So if that's something that's interesting to you, the process is slightly different with an interview, but you would be warmly welcome to put your hat into the ring for those roles as well. If you would like to do that, please do get in touch with me, and I can make sure that you've got the details for how to do that. It should be very straightforward. I just wanted to quickly hand over. I don't know if you've got anything to say, but our current grassroots trustee, Kush, did you have anything to add to what I've just said?
No, I just put a little post in the chat saying, again, echoing to well done for everybody who stood. It's great to have a broad range of you, and like you said, I think it's any of you would have been fantastic candidates. But yeah, great to congratulations to Richard. Look forward to working with you.
And can I just say thank you very much, everybody, and also my fellow candidates. Hopefully you'll do what Naveed does, saying, and come along. We need more grassroots people on the board to, well, we know, because we get all the grassroots, we get so much material, get more people, get more plugging the grassroots, and we can also find out more about what goes on in results, because I think we could probably help, you know, from the board point of view, trustee point of view, we could help more promoting the different things that the staff members do. So please, let's all come on the board.
Absolutely. Yeah, please, absolutely second that. Please do be in touch. So we need to finish this call now. It's been really great seeing you as always, and thank you for bearing with this slightly different call format and for taking part in the election, either as a candidate or as a voter. And just a reminder that the next grassroots conference call will be on the first Tuesday of September, which is Tuesday the 3rd of September at 8 p.m. So for now, if you're not staying for an informal chat, enjoy the rest of your evenings.